Tonight, we're unpacking the hidden cost of chasing greatness and what it means to rewrite your legacy so success doesn't come at an expense to your soul. When did you, gentlemen, if you did, when did you first feel the pressure to be great? And again, that's if you did, and who defined what that meant for you?
Well, I'll start with the defined part because I don't know if anybody specifically defined it for me as I could think back on it. Probably not. But the first time I thought I had the idea of greatness, you know, and this may sound so cheesy, but being young, it was probably like elementary, middle school, something like that. During during like Black History, the first time I can remember hearing people talk great about people that look like the people I lived around, you know. And so, like the idea of greatness to me was being put in the textbook. If you've written in the textbook, you was great. You left the impact, and that's how I thought about it. And so, but as I think about it, I'm looking at that legacy. I guess I would tie those two together as to how I envision greatness early on. But the pressure of being great, I don't think I had a pressure of being great. I had a pressure in my mind of not ending up back where I left.
Mm.
Um, because later on in my teenage years, it's like everybody know Twami going in the army. Twami going he gonna do this. He gonna do that. He gonna do this. And there was a few people who was like, I'm gonna do it too. I'm gonna do it too. And when they got sent back home because they didn't make it through basic or whatever, you know, the noise start chirping. So when I left and I went back to duty, every time I thought I was gonna get in trouble, I would try to, how do I write this wrong? How do I fix it? Like it was just a pressure not to go back and not to be seen as one who failed at making it out.
Well, I'll say since you're talking about the military and getting in trouble, that's kind of where my mind went with this question. When did I first feel the pressure to be great was probably after this was probably my first deployment to Iraq. I was E5-ish. I did 3 years. I got out for three and then I went back in and went back in. I got promoted to E5, got demoted, got promoted again to E4, got promoted again to E5. You know what I'm saying? All of those things. So during my first deployment, I had a couple of sergeants major. And I guess at the time, I was a little older because I got out, came back in, and then, like I said, I got promoted to E5, E4, and then E5 again. So I was one of the older E4s in around in the company and stuff like this. And then I got promoted E5, and then around these sergeant majors and stuff like this. And they talking about, being great and, pursuing promotions and all of these different things like that. So for me at the time, they were the one who defined what greatness was. Now, that is not necessarily how I view greatness now, because I'm a little older and wiser and had a little bit more I've had a little bit more lifing in me. But at the time, it was those dudes. And I felt that pressure because I was older than a lot of people. I had been in trouble. And then in the back of my head, if you don't make a certain rank, then you're going to kind of get out or they're going to kind of force you out the door. Well, I was nervous, didn't have no college at the time, had a family, and was worried about what's going to happen if I don't push, if I'm not great in the military. So again, those the things that kind of did it for me. And I don't know if great is the right word, but I definitely felt the pressure to succeed and to achieve higher ranks because, like I said, I'd have got in a lot of trouble and had family, had all of that stuff going on. But again, who defined what it meant for me? They didn't come out and say it to me, but the things that they say and how they moved, and the push for them to get promoted is kind of where that definition of greatness came from. Again, early on before I turned 30. So that's it for me.
if I can be heard. I don't know, but I think
Yep.
for me, I wouldn't even consider it where I was thinking it was greatness because when I was growing up in school, I had a I had a little sense. I had somebody pushing me towards education. So I was always told, you got to be better than this and you're better than that. And you shouldn't do that. You can't follow them. So this was instilling in me that I got to do things differently. So I don't know if I would consider it greatness. I think it was something that was to try to catapult to me towards something better. So I think as a child, I saw that because everybody I was around, education wasn't a thing. It didn't matter whether you went to school. It didn't matter whether you got good grades. So for me, those things were pushed on me. So it made me look in the mirror and say, "Man, I can't do everything everybody else is doing." So that's where I was when I was young, elementary school.
Yeah, I'm right there in that same category. I don't think greatness was a term that you heard a lot when I was growing up. Um, I will even go a step further. If I can describe it, it looked more like survival. And so survival was the thing that I've seen, which was common. And I think for me, it was not so much as a pursuit of greatness, it was just a pursuit not to go into survival. Kind of sound like what Brother Gaddy said. Um, who defined it for me? No one. No one. If I'm being completely transparent, it wasn't defined until I started putting myself in different circles. When I started putting myself in different circles and started seeing and experiencing different thought patterns, then I realized that that was available. Once I realized that those thought patterns was available, it was almost like it gave me permission to think differently than what I was thinking prior to. Sure, I had the military experience, encountered some great people, but they taught me how to play the game, and I think that's a big difference. Learning how to play the game in the army is one thing. Learning how to be great, I think, is something far greater than that. Even when you look at some of the people who achieved some what we perceive to be as great things, um, to me, I'm not pursuing what that person did. I'm not chasing what they did. I'm not looking to be right beside them. Once I started getting this idea of what greatness is or what the pursuit of greatness can look like, then I started to define it for myself. And what I found is that the more I define it, the more I realized I needed to redefine it. And so that was the thing for me.
If I can alibi though, right?
Alibi, brother.
So, because we all kind of share similarities in the story, right? And we can kind of see where the connection is. But there was another thing for me that was a pressure in my mind, but wasn't really a pressure till it became a reality. And for me, coming out of the neighborhoods we come out of, it was being a father to and not a baby daddy. You know, and so that has always been a weight on me. So, you know, with marriage ending and stuff like that, with kids involved, that it broke me a lot more so because I became the one thing. I felt like I was becoming the one thing I vowed to never be, you know, and and sometimes it almost feels like like you're running from the inevitable in a sense, and I was saying my generation in this community, so it's to me that's a pressure that is a pressure because it's put on us so much that we don't want to be fathers, we don't want to be around our kids, you know we leave kids and we abandon children in homes, and that was all I that was a pressure on me, was to never have that story. And so if there's pressure for me, that's the pressure. So having kids that don't live in my home or don't live in my state, that I can't just show up for, that's a pressure for me.
Are you feeling the pressure because on the other side that there's an expectation of yourself to be great at being a father?
Absolutely. And also tied, to not having kids with my last name that are fatherless?
I can relate a little bit to that. I had kids from a previous marriage, and there were times where we wasn't together, and I kind of felt that pressure too, because it's like, man, how you going to be a great father if you ain't around? You know what I mean? So now you have that pressure. It's like, darn it, man, like, what am I going to miss out on? How are my kids going to turn out because I wasn't there to provide X, Y, and Z? And even, I don't know how y'all feel about it, but, or think about it, but, when I was deployed, I didn't really feel like much more than a paycheck. When you're gone for 12 months and then you're gone for 15 months and, you're sending the money home. But, and then back then, this was pre, the internet the way we got it now. It wasn't just as easy as reaching out and touch somebody. Like there was internet was like super slow, and everything was wired up, and you're in Iraq and it's '07. I mean, think about where the internet and the capabilities we had in '07 versus what we have now. So I definitely can relate to what you're saying, Gaddy.
See, I'm struggling there because
Oh,
I think we're skirting a thin line when we do that, right?
okay.
Um, if I make an active decision to not have anything to do with my kids, that's one thing. But because had a relationship that didn't fail, I don't see that as being, I mean, a relationship that wasn't successful, I don't see that as being the same thing. Also, when we go back to the notion of parenthood, who defines great parenthood? And I think that's part of the issue that we have in this society. We listen to a lot of outside chatter, another person's perspective, a person who doesn't look like me telling me that, oh, well, a good man or a good father will, blah, 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 blah. But that person doesn't even have the relevant experience to be able to define what good fatherhood look like, let alone to be able to articulate or give me any blueprint of what fatherhood looks like. So even the fathers who live in, like, I'll say it like this. I don't know any parent while they were parenting that can say they knew exactly what they were doing. Well, if you don't know exactly what you were doing, then it is very difficult for you to put the title on yourself as being great. It should be twice as difficult for you to accept the opinion of somebody else for you not being a father, let alone whether they call it good or whatever the case may be. So that's what I'm saying. I think we're skirting a very thin line as it pertains to parenthood. And I'm saying that intentionally, whether it's motherhood or fatherhood, and trying to put a title, put an adjective in the front of it, saying good, great, or bad, or whatever that looks like.
And I agree. I 100% agree. And I think that's why, just from where, I assume this conversation is going, that's why I introduced that, because that's my struggle. And that's the thing that keeps me up at night, that I like, for me, it's like I got to deal with that internally, because like you said, I can't do nothing about the relationship that didn't work. And if she chose to drag them across country, I can't make that my fault and but it's still, it does have a mental hold on me, because it's like, if something happened to my girls and I can't get there, I'm taking the entire state of Georgia gonna have to come up by its roots until I figure out what's going on. Like, but I digress.
No, I get that. I get all of that, and it makes me think a little bit more. And I think it may even roll into the next question. Especially even going and being in Iraq and different stuff like that. Do you think that can you chase greatness without losing yourself? Or is it a sacrifice that's always required? So again, can you chase greatness without losing yourself? Or is sacrifice always required? Oh, there you know what that means. Coach rubbing his hands together. He cold.
Which means
He
Daddy got to
warming
go
up.
first.
You go up first.
I'm going before him. he ready, and whatever he ready for, I'm gonna get off the tracks. I think you could possibly right. You could possibly achieve it, but not chase it without sacrifice. Right. I think that and you probably can't even achieve it without sacrifice. But just in the notion of how I'm seeing this, especially through this question, I may become great without effort because I'm just organically being what I'm designed, called, and purposed to be, right? But if I'm chasing it, there's going to be a sacrifice.
I, I'm having a problem with the word great. I am because of how we see it, because it's always someone else's perception. And so when we say I'm great or I'm chasing greatness, it's like I'm chasing the figment of somebody's imagination of what something is, instead of just being, hey, I'm the best me that I can be at this moment. Then tomorrow I'm gonna strive to be better, and I'm gonna strive to be better, and I'm gonna continue to do this thing to where I'm not perfect, because greatness almost has a level of perfection to it. It almost has a level of I can't mess up. And I know I'm a fallible person, so I know I'm gonna mess up. I know I'm gonna have problems. So me chasing something that's a ghost in the wind, or like trying to catch a feather in the windstorm, is it's almost setting me up for where I know I got to sacrifice to make life better. I know I gotta. I'm gonna lose some relationships. I'm gonna lose some friendships, and I'm gonna have some times where I'm emotionally inept because I'm striving to be something, and I'm chasing something that's really not there. It's not even attainable, but I continue to search for it.
Um, yeah. So very interesting question. First and foremost, there's an assumption in this question that causes it to be problematic, and that is that you know exactly who you are right now. That's the issue. And I think within the scope of losing myself, what we're really saying is that losing what I perceive myself to be in this particular moment, in this particular time. At the end of the day, you don't have to chase greatness. I'll say it again. You don't have to chase greatness. That's one of the beautiful aspects of this conversation. Because if you really understand who you were created to be, then it's not you chasing something, it's you opening yourself up so that something can be revealed to the world. So, will you lose yourself? Absolutely. You're going to lose who you know yourself to be today for the sake of who you're supposed to be tomorrow. I think that's one of the biggest concerns and the biggest issues. Like we like to say in this present day, in this present time, I know who I am. Sure. But if we change the parameters of your current situation, I bet you a new person will be revealed to the world. And that's the key. You're learning who you are consistently every step of the way. And what ends up happening is that as you are refined, as you go through the tests that are presented to you incrementally throughout time, now a new version of you is revealed to the world. And that version of you operates at a higher capacity than one that you currently like the one that you're currently familiar with.
Um, I kind of want to use an analogy here, or at least a correlation, and I want to see where we are with this. I got everything that y'all said, so I'm looking at. I definitely understand, and some of y'all talked about is other people's perception of greatness, right? So let's take Michael Jordan right here, right? As he was chasing greatness to be the GOAT, greatest of all times in a lot of people's mind, a lot of people's opinion. Um, and kind of maybe to coach's point, I don't know, but I'm thinking it's like he really wasn't losing himself. He was just becoming better versions of himself on his way to chase greatness. I don't know. And then is it sacrifice always required? I think if depend on what the sacrifice is. You know what I'm saying? So maybe there were some sacrifice in his rearing of his kids. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm kind of all over the place with this. I see a bunch of different perspectives over here. I definitely see the part about, you know, not necessarily losing yourself, but as you are going and you're, where I was 5 years ago, I'm in a better place right now. And the person that I lost or whatever was just older versions of myself. I've evolved, I've gotten better on this path to greatness or just becoming a better version of myself. But I don't necessarily think that sacrifice is always required. I think if we look at it from like a Michael Jordan or somebody like that, those people we look at and say greatness, they always talk about where I sacrificed my family, I sacrificed my time, I got up at 4 a.m. and went to the gym. All of these things that they talked about sacrifice along the way. But I think, maybe to Coach's point is that, when you know who you are and you're kind of striving to be a better person, maybe the older version of yourself is kind of what gets kind of thrown by the wayside as you're on this trajectory in life. And again, I don't necessarily know if there's automatically sacrifice is required. If anything that is lost along the way, I don't look at it as a sacrifice. I didn't really need those things anyway. I don't smoke no more. I don't drink no more. I don't watch this or that on TV or whatever like that. Whatever these things may be, I think those are all things that are sacrificed or lost along the way while you trying to be a very better version of yourself. And I don't know if I made the water more cloudy or not, but anybody have any thoughts on any of that?
But I thought you was asking a question, or you're just making a statement for us to respond to.
Probably making a statement more than anything. Um, Probably making more of a statement.
Okay. Um, I'll go first on this one.
Mm,
Listening to everything that you just said, I mean, you gave the example of Michael Jordan. It's clear to see their sacrifices, right? Long hours
mm,
in the gym, time away from the family, things of that nature. It's not just the time spent away from the people that didn't know, love, and care about, but it's also the wear and tear that it takes on their body. Look at who they are in their older age, and look at some of the deformities that they actually have.
mm,
Look at Deion Sanders. Things of that nature. That was the price that he had to pay in order to achieve that level of greatness. So I think in some aspect, regardless of how big or how small it is, it's going to require sacrifice. Even when you mentioned, I don't drink no more, I don't smoke no more, you had to give those things up, right?
mhm,
You giving those things up, that's a sacrifice. That's the very definition of a sacrifice. You had to
mm,
relinquish. It's like you're giving up something of a lesser value for something of the greater value in the future. That is the very definition of sacrifice.
mm,
So at the end of the day, it's not that, and I'll go back to the Michael Jordans, the Deion Sanders, and so forth and so on, people who fall in that category. It's not that they're saying their families are of a lesser value. It's the lifestyle that they were living at that particular point in time that was the lesser value. And in order to change that, they made a decision to sacrifice a lot of time while everybody else was out smoking and joking and having fun and all that other great stuff, right? Going to college during that particular point in time, there was no such thing as NIL. So they had to forego, being paid because a lot of people go to college to get a job. Well, back then you couldn't have a job that paid you more than X amount of dollars, or you would actually be disqualified from playing for that year. So it's like all of those things were sacrificial to follow the path that they knew ultimately would get them. But it was hard work that they had to do. Look at a student athlete having a GPA that is passing, and you can't be on a team if you don't have a passing GPA. So having a GPA that's passing and still doing 2-a-day practices, going to the gym and all that other great stuff so
mm,
that you can actually be competitive on the field. Well, that's that arena. Let's change the dynamics to the average Joe. The average Joe works a 9 to 5, taking time away from their family so that they can keep the lights on, put food on the table, all those other great and wonderful things. And I would add a little bit of this to the mix if you want. The people that we just got finished talking about, the Michael Jordans, the Deion Sanders, those are the ones who get the recognition from the children of the ones who work the 9 to 5 and actually keep the lights on, keep the food on the table, and all those great and wonderful things. You don't think that's a sacrifice? It's a
mhm,
lot of sacrifice in it. And the last point I make, losing yourself, yes, you must. Because if I stay stuck in the current space of who I know myself to be, and I have a fixed mindset on who I think I am, then I do not have the opportunity to open my mind up so that I can become the person that he is showing me that I'm supposed to be moving forward.
Yeah, I'm with that. Because I do believe now. I feel like the Michael Jordan thing was unfair because everything that we would say in response is speculation, right? But in the sport of speculation, I look at you. He finally retired in 2003, gets a divorce in 2006. He didn't know that woman for them 16, 17 years. Well, actually, you go further because he played baseball, and then he was the team GM. Then played again. So that's what 18, 19 years. He didn't know that woman. They they went in the house. He's 8 months out of the year. He was on the road in the gym, getting extra shots. You know, hanging out with the teammates to build that. So there's a lot. I'm looking at that and I'm like, it's just kind of how we talk about with people who have children. Not we, but I've heard conversation. People who had children early in their marriage. When them children grow up, and they're like, how mom and dad get a divorce after 25 years because they don't know each other. They found out 25 years later, outside of parenting, they don't like each other. They don't get it because their marriage was defined by that. Their marriage was defined by she ran everything and he went on the road. And so now when you home and this is what you do, so I'm looking at that. So that's still is that not a sacrifice? That's just the way I'm looking at it. So I think that if we're going, especially when you say the word chase, there's an obsession that comes with the concept of chasing, and it creates tunnel vision in a sense. Like you talking about a man who talked about the fact that he became obsessed the moment he didn't make the high school basketball team. We like to say he got cut. He didn't make it, right? And not making that high school basketball team created an obsession in him that he chased all the way till the point he retired. And there's some things you gotta give up. You hear him talk about his brother and his dad, but with the childhood friends. He was in the gym. He didn't get that. And you see it with a lot of these athletes that are put to train like professionals at a young age. They don't get them kid summers. They don't get those chances to go out and just play ball with their friends. Everything is organized.
Well, I don't care about Michael Jordan, Montel Jordan, or Barbara Jordan. I can talk about us up here because we, being in the military, had to sacrifice. Whenever I don't care what you say, you were chasing rank because somebody told you, it was some sergeant major that told me, hey, I see greatness in you and I see better in you. So you need to go to this school. You need to do this. You need to go jump out of airplanes or air assault and all these things. So now it's wear and tear on your body. It's you can't just kick it with your friends. You missing school plays with your children. You missing eating dinner with your family, having those conversations that build. And that's chasing thing that when they say gain the world and lose your soul, sometimes that falls in line with that because I'm chasing what somebody else believes is best for me instead of what is best for me because I'm looking through their eyes. So with Jordan, Jackson, it don't matter. If I'm looking at them, I can say, oh man, they lost a lot. But when it came to us chasing even the minute things that we consider minute, maybe on the grand scheme of things, when we were chasing rank, when we were doing those things, say, hey, you got to be gone. Like my one of my schools was 4.5 months. I'm gone, away from the family. We don't think about when we're in the moment. We think, hey, I'm doing this for the family. No, you're doing this for you. You're doing this so you can get some more money, so you can get a better check. So the sacrifice is always going to be there when you try to attain something that you want, not pushing it off on everybody else, that you desire, that you want. There comes some sacrifices, whether it's spending time with the loved one, the family, the friends, whether it's going out with the boys. If I'm working out, hey, I got to start eating right. So I can't eat all these steaks. I can't eat these burgers. I can't eat these things. I got to sacrifice. I got to let some things go. And with any type of advancement, there will be sacrifice. Sacrifice can be good or bad.
They said Barbara quit astray, Barbara Jordan in the chat.
Or they going
Def-
crazy over Bob. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know Barbara Jordan. But as we move along, we got a question for the panel, and the next one we got a panel for us as well. So if you're here, first of all, I mean, again, thank you for being here. You guys could be anywhere else this Friday evening, but you guys chose to be here with us gentlemen. So appreciate that. Thank you for hitting the like button. Thank you for sharing this content, all of those good things like that. So as we go to this personal question, feel free to chime in the chat, or as Coach said, you always can ask for questions. So feel like be more than welcome to be part of the show and add value, or add a question to the chat if you want to. So personal question again for the audience and the panel. What's one area of your life where chasing success caused you to lose something valuable? And I know Roland probably just started it right there. So what do you think?
My response is going to be unpopular because so I'm agreeing with what Roland said,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not going to sit here and say that I pursued promotion because I just wanted more money. You got to realize I had people in the house that like to spend money. I had a son that liked Jordans, things of that nature. So it wasn't for me to have more money. It was for me to say no less. I'll say it that way. It's not like I did not say no, but it was for me to say no less. It's a disheartening thing for a man to have to tell your kids or your spouse no because you can't afford it. It's another thing to tell them no because it's a principle. That's two different things. I prefer the principal approach as opposed to the I can't afford it approach. So when I looked at promotion, so forth and so on, it was me trying to get promoted so that my family can, right? My son played whatever sport that his mama wanted to put him in at that particular point in time. And he played sports ever since he was knee high to a duck. That's real young folk. Some of y'all young folk out there, real young, knee high to a duck. So when you look at what's one area of your life where chasing success caused you to lose something valuable, I can't say that I have a thing to where it caused me to lose something valuable because even in the midst of losing a thing, it was value based upon my perception of what value was at that particular point in time. As I got older, I realized that it actually was probably better for me to where I lost this thing here because I never lose the thing. I never lost the thing that was attached to it. And I'll be completely transparent. I think it was at this age, at this state in my life, I think it was a good thing that unfortunately I ended up getting the divorce. And I said it that way intentionally. It was a good thing that unfortunately I ended up getting the divorce because at the end of the day, I didn't lose my kids. I just don't see them every day. But my kids are all grown. So at the end of the day, they all have the ability to pick up the phone and call. They all have the ability to text and vice versa. So it's not like I lost them. I just did not have the ability back then to see them every day. And it felt like a loss. But as I progressed and time progressed, it's not, it wasn't a loss. It was like we still stayed connected.
I would say that gotta be careful how I say it, but the pursuit of righteousness, I'll say it that way. And I know we got a lot of cliches that go with that or against that, whatever. That's fine. But for me, whenever I saw that the Most High showed me something, and it said that this was, and I see that this is not righteous or it's not according to the word, I take the conscious effort to try to cut it off. But in cutting off things that have become cultural norms to people, or cultural norms even to 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 religious people, what have you, lost a lot of people. Some of them people were the mother of my children, right? Because they don't want to pursue that. They want to stay in the norm and the status quo, and that's cool. But this is what was shown to me. The more I search it, the more I pursue it through scriptures or through research, the more I see how I needed to break away and move towards what he was showing me, what the Father was allowing me to see. And for me, that pursuit of truth and of walking in his righteousness allows you it causes you to sacrifice even relationships with people who don't want to pursue. And that's just a reality. I like where I'm at. I like doing what I'm doing. I like behaving how I behave. And you can't come over here and tell me, because I've already convinced myself that God is okay with my sinful life because he sent his son so I could sin. Like I don't believe that. And so since I don't believe that his son came so we can live an unrighteous and lawless life, I move differently. So that's an area in my life to where, and I didn't cut people off. I ain't tell them to leave. They said, I don't like it. I got to go.
I think mine might be a little unpopular because for me, an area in life where chasing success caused me to lose something valuable was church, church politics, church leadership. When it's time for me to, okay, I gotta go over here with somebody, speak over here, and move here, and drive to this state, drive to this city, and it's a lot of moving pieces, and I place it all in the name of the Most High, but yet it was all in the name of me progressing sometimes. It was in the name of me pleasing people sometimes. It was in the name of me doing what somebody else thought I should do to get where I wanted to be. And so thought if I would rub elbows over here, then I would get what I wanted. So I'm sacrificing time with family. I'm sacrificing friends. I'm sacrificing all these things because I'm looking at the carrot and I'm chasing it. So that was, church and the politics and leadership for me.
Um, I don't know in my life where I've done a whole bunch of chasing success. I would say for me, for a long time I was just on the hamster wheel. I was chasing promotions, but I wasn't at the same time. I wanted to get promoted, so out of fear of not getting put out of the military. But it wasn't necessarily I was chasing the success. I was chasing the rank so I could provide, so I could stay in longer till I got to a point where I could decide on my own whether or not I stayed in or not, because you don't make a certain rank by a certain time, you're behind got to go, and when you've been in a lot of trouble, you don't know if you're ever going to get that, that silver bullet or that magic statement to say, hey, you know what, your time is up, brother, because of some things that you may have done in the past. So with that being said, I don't know if I've ever really lost anything of value. And then if I kind of look at how things have been since I've been out of the military, everything that I've chased as far as success, I don't know if it's really, I don't know. I don't think I've lost anything of value. The things that were supposed to go by the wayside went by the wayside. Um, I have a pretty supportive tight group. So how I move, the people don't drop off because of the relationship that we have. So if I'm chasing, I don't know, if I'm chasing to, last year I did the marathon. So that was something that I was chasing, part of success, but I didn't lose anything of value. You know what I mean? I lost some sleep. Yeah, sleep when I'm dead. I lost some meals and some certain things like that. But, I don't think I've really lost anything of value, over the last X amount of years because of what I'm chasing. It's not, I guess, what someone else's definition of what success is. It's what I choose and what I think of being success. And those things that I've kind of chased, they haven't cost me anything. And I think not of anything of value. At least that's what I'm thinking of right now. So maybe if I think a little bit deeper, maybe I'll come up with something. But right now, that's kind of where I'm at. Um, If y'all don't have anything to that, I do want to get to a couple of questions that we had. Um, all right, so the first question kind of goes back to where we was at before, and this is from Miss Verlene McCoy. So, Miss Verlene McCoy, thank you for being here this afternoon, this evening, and thank you as well for this question. So, what if your goal was not greatness, but just being the best you have, the best you can be to yourself? So, gentlemen, anybody, what do you think about this? I'll read it again. What if your goal was not greatness, but just being the best that you can be of yourself?
I think this kind of goes back to what I said previously. Like when, for me again, when growing up, all I seen was struggle. It was just initially for me not to struggle, right? When you look at the environment, you see people working in this particular job, whatever. So a few college professors over here, whatever that looked like, a few school teachers. It was like, hey, I want to be good at something. Didn't really know what that was. So it wasn't, to her point, it wasn't so much as a focus on greatness because that didn't show up until a focal point until later. But it was just me not wanting to struggle. It was just me not wanting to live in survival and then recreate what I seen somebody else doing when I was younger. Not that they did it bad, not that they did it wrong. That's not a bridge for me. It's just that what I had in my head for my life.
I'm gonna head to the next. I'm gonna go to the next question again. Thanks, Verlene, for that question. The next question was by CF. So CF, appreciate you for being here. Thank you for the question. This may be more. I don't remember who. I know I brought up the Jordan piece, but so how can MJ be balanced as he was great on the court, but not great with this marriage? This may be more so to what Gaddy, maybe more so towards Gaddy.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, because I think the original point, I think because Uncle was looking at Jordan a little bit more balanced, as if that's saying that he didn't personally see the sacrifice. Uh, but that was the point I was making, was there had to be a sacrifice. The balance, I don't. A balance may exist, but when we use a word like greatness, when you're in pursuit of that, this something is always going to take a loss. Whether it's sleep, whether it's food, whether it's your smoking or drinking, whether it's your home life, something's going to take a loss so you can chase something, if you're going to chase. But even if you're not chasing, I think Roland made that point too. Like, with elevation comes a sacrifice. You know, you may not have chased promotion, but when you got promoted, you definitely had to give up more time, because you had to start building counselings, being a part of meetings, get to PT early so you could be a part of the NCO meeting before PT and collect per stats. The first time we turn that in as one, so they can turn it in y'all before we do PT, right? So with that, even with that elevation, there came the sacrifice. So I
May I?
uh-oh.
Yes, you may.
Look at Mr. Fulton.
Oh, you know who it is.
Yeah, yeah, I know who that is. Um, he wasn't supposed to be balanced. I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that we have. This is why we instruct men to not get married at a young age, because at a young age, you're supposed to be focused. When you're focused, there is no balance. You're focused on developing, creating, growing, so forth and so on. Once you get to the point to where you can get to what we tend to call a cruising altitude, then at the cruising altitude, you can find balance. But in the beginning, when you're doing your thing, and I'm just going to use the MJ example, when he is in this prime winning 6 NBA championship, there's no such thing as balance there. It is impossible for there to be balance. And if she was expecting balance, then I mean, that's lunacy. I'm just going to be honest with you. But like I said, once you hit that cruising altitude, then from there, you can transition from focus to balance. And I think that's where a lot of people have a misconception. They want to get married at 19, 20 years old, and then they're screaming for balance. But that just goes to show that you have no earthly idea what you're doing in the realm of marriage. If you're married and you have a person that is focused like that, then you are making an agreement or should make an agreement before you get into that. So that's kind of like my response here. No such thing as balance, especially in your earlier ages of your life.
So are
Wait,
you
hold. Let me jump on this MJ thing before you start. Eh,
Let me jump
Because
on this. Man.
I think everybody looks at Juanita, his former wife, the first former wife, and we don't know the whole of the relationship. So we assume all of the wrong that made it not work was Mike. And I think that's an assumption that, you can say, well, Mike was this and Mike was out all the time. But we don't know what Juanita was doing. We don't know what was going on through her mind. And as Coach said, they were both young when they got married. Two young people with her expectations of what is and his expectations of what is. And when he's striving to be the best at his craft, she may have all I can do is assume have been looking like, man, everything is passing me by. I don't care if I got this restaurant in Chicago. I don't care if I got this. I don't have him. So when it comes to relationships, you never know unless you in that relationship, you don't know what's going on. So all you can do is assume who the right or wrong person was. So you know how I feel about the whole Mike thing.
yeah, because he finally beat your Pistons to start winning. I get it. But
See,
we're not. That's not what we're here for. I'm gonna leave you alone. I like that though because I'm kind of indifferent on the Aisha Curry thing because I'm like, how many basketball wives got a platform? You know, and so she's just saying what they're all thinking. And that's kind of what you just described. Like, oh, everything passed me by, and he's living this great life, and I'm here. And Aisha, she people putting her on platforms and giving her microphones, so she gets to actually say what the other ones might be thinking. So I feel like. But my question was to you, sir. So, and I'm possibly the Roland because it sounds like you agree, and I'm not saying I disagree. No, coach.
Coach.
Yeah. So is the problem the ability to focus and be married for a man, or because I hear this argument, so I'm gonna let y'all not beat me up, or is the problem not that we don't one? There's a lot of problems, but or is the problem to help me? Because am I not supposed to pursue even if I have a partner? Do I stop my pursuit of whatever it is that I'm trying to be, whatever career I'm in? Because if I get married at 30 and I'm still in a career that's demanding, uh, does that change?
So, number one, I never defined the problem. That's for starters.
That's how I'm asking.
Right. So, what I said is that for young men, they need to focus first, right? That way they can build. And then when they build, now you are at a place to where you can be that person that can receive, right? So you receive your bride. Now she has stable footing, stable ground. She is not in the struggle up here. So now at this stage, you have more of an opportunity for balance to where here what you're going to have is exactly what you was just talking about, getting on somebody's platform saying, oh well, he got this all this where's my legacy and all kind of, and I don't know, I don't follow them, I have no idea what she's saying, I'm just going based on what you're saying. So I don't think it's so. I think the problem is that there's a misconception about what this whole marriage thing should be and what timelines look like for that, to where you got a lot of people say, well, if you like it then you better put a ring on it. Like, be quiet and stop talking. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have a contract marriage. Everybody knows that. So at the end of the day, you shouldn't be giving that type of advice anyway. That leads people down a road of delusion. Then people get married for companionship. Stop it. Stop it. All of that. Again, I'm just telling you the truth. So for one need the build and the other need to work out their delusions, right? This is not Walt Disney. There is no such thing as Prince Charming. Nobody's going to come sweep you off your feet. Stop that. Okay. Focus on understanding what it be to be Proverbs 31 when he shows up. Then work on doing that so that when he shows up, he cannot stop looking at you. That's totally different. But it's like what ends up happening is that child turns 18, you got to get up out my house, right? That's generally what happened. You at the age of 18, you got to go. And so what ends up happening, that child like in search of companionship. So that's what I'm saying. The problem is not the either or. The problem is the mindset that we have around marriage and relationship.
And to your question, Gaddy, I think that we spend too much time trying to enforce and reinforce biblical principles into a worldly dynamic. So it's like, hold up, how you gonna push this off on this dude? That this dude ain't no more godly than the man on the moon. So it's like, come on now, like you saying this is how you should live, this is how you should treat her, this is how you should, and nothing else in his life speaks to that. So it's like, who's delirious, him or you? He's where he should be, on Fool's Hill, and you're trying to push him on another hill.
I like all of that. I like Gaddy's question. I like when Coach talked about Proverbs 31. I think even before we get there, he says, "He who finds a wife." Sometimes when we're young, we don't know what a wife is, right? And sometimes we don't learn that until we're on number 2 or number 3 or whatever that may be. So some of it is we didn't pick or we didn't choose a wife. We chose, or maybe we chose what we thought a wife was at the time. If I think we chose a wife and the wife was and is what she is, I think even if we go back to that, the relationship can stand. The relationship, the Iraq, the 15 months, the 18 years in the league, all of that stuff. If he chose well, anybody chose well, they chose the wife. The wife was the Proverbs 31. Everybody operated in their role. Then I think that I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is some of the onus is on us as choosing as well. We choose wrong. We can't expect for right to happen sometimes if we choose wrong. And that's not a hit on anybody. It just goes back to sometime we were young. Had my first child at 19 and got married at 20. I am nowhere near the same man I was when I chose my first wife at 18, 19, 20 years old. You know? Um, I don't know where that fits in there, but I think it fits somewhere in there. That's my
I mean,
story.
it's really just overcooking these grits right now because we all said the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Nothing,
like
nothing,
overcooked grits.
nothing that was said differently. It was all the same thing.
Okay. Um, we had an hour already. We only like 3 questions in. I'm gonna do this question, right? And then we're gonna do some would you rather real quick. And this is what's the emotional toll of constantly striving to be more, if there is any?
Burnout.
I think that's it. That's where I was at. It's burnout. Because at what point do we become maintainers and stop? Never mind. I'll leave that because I know some people believe you always got to go get more money, get more money, get more money, get more money. But you know, I I think there's a place you can get to, but at some point there should be some level of some level of contentment, right? Not that the paycheck should ever stop coming in, but that's not what it means for more. But at least what I hear when I hear more is like, well, I made it here now. Now that I made it here, I gotta go here. Now I gotta do this, and I gotta do this. I gotta continue to achieve. When will you meet the mark to where you can live?
And then where's where's the pressure coming from to want to keep thriving? You know, is that internal or is it external? And I
You, you,
think that's important too.
you get addicted to it, man.
Mm.
That's what it is. You get addicted to it. That's why, like that word constantly down there, that word
Mm-hmm.
constantly, it means something. You get addicted to the grind. You get addicted to the chase. You get addicted to the levels of success. Like once you gain this, right, you achieve, you caught this carrot on the stick. Now what's the next one? Like you haven't even sat with that and celebrated long enough for that level of success. Now you're looking for the next one. And so, yeah, the cost of it is burnout. It becomes a constant grind. It is a never ending chase for the next level of success. If you have not pre-described what success looks like for you, and then identified that as your cruising altitude, and then move from there into legacy development, it's going to continue to be me, 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 and me.
Mm.
Then you can also have self doubt along with the burnout and everything that they discussed. You can have self doubt because when you start to strive, yeah, I made this mark, but I'm looking at Coach, I'm looking at Gaddy, I'm looking at Unc, and they're here. So now I'm adding pressures onto myself that ain't even there because I'm saying, man, I ain't make it. I just made it right here. So I'm doubting my, uh, not my abilities, but I'm doubting, like, man, did I put enough into it? Did I strive hard enough? Did I sit up there? Have I made it? Because I'm doubting where I am because success is I'm still chasing that carrot. I'm never gonna reach it, but I'm gonna keep chasing it because I'm looking at everything and the carrot. I'm looking at it like, yeah, I got to get there. I got to get there. So I will have that self doubt to say, man, I might not be as good as I think I am. So I developed that imposter syndrome.
I, and I don't think it's always imposter syndrome. I'm only saying this because I know we 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 we're teaching in a sense. We're helping. We're trying to help ourselves and the audience, right? Those, but sometimes I think it's the pursuit of looking for what you thought the initial success was supposed to look like. It never looks like what you dreamt of. It never looks like what you dreamt of. Oh, if I make this much money, and then you're gonna change it to a new tax bracket, so you ain't gonna be able to do what you thought you could do with that money, right? So now you're pursuing more money so you could do, but and then you change it to another tax bracket. Like, understand. Sometimes the problem is you think you got to. It has to look like this. This is what I dreamt. This is what I picture, and I'm pursuing that dream. Um, and I think, and pursuing dreams can be dangerous. It can be dangerous because sometimes I just everything that I've ever made it, I'm like, man, I started making this much. Man, I got this. Man, I was able to do this. Yeah, I remember leaving New York and I was like, man, I'm about to buy my first car. Yeah, and car insurance and gas and tires every time you hit a pothole in Columbia, uh, South Carolina, because there's one on every corner, right? Like, I'm being honest though. So yeah, I'm glad I got this car, but now I got 10 times less money. So now I need to make more money so I can afford to keep maintaining the car. And then when I make that money, nope, I need a new car because now I make this money. I can't be driving this old 1999. It's never going to look like what you want it to look like.
Yeah. CF, Coach, what's that? I got you. Coach said, he said, what verse is that in Proverbs 31? I'm gonna say the whole thing.
The whole chapter.
Whole chapter. Appreciate you again for that comment, CF.
And the reason and the reason why I say the whole chapter, because one of the first things you're going to realize that's a conversation from a mother to her son.
Hallelujah. Thank you for pointing that out.
Maya Jenkins Hobson, thank you for this. Well, I feel there isn't any or many conversations before the choosing of what they need to be looking for and who they need to be. I agree. I think we definitely need to have more conversations just like that in general. So again, thank you for that comment. And then Stephen Kyle, thank you for this too. Yeah, met my wife at 18, Fort Hood. First time Brown said it was young Thundercat. Give time and understanding. 3 kids later, 2 deployments, and 20 years later, here we are. But you don't know what you know. We have been through hell and back, but understand the good outweighs the bad. Stay in the fight, stay in your lane, and take care of yourself first. faith in God first. Definitely appreciate all of those comments and stuff like that everybody said. Much, much, much appreciated. We got some more for you guys. We're going to slide down to the Would You Rather segment. This is where we're going to go through all of us and we're going to ask some questions about what would you rather do. So the first question is this. Would you rather be great at work or great at home?
Home.
Definitely home.
I think that's probably unanimous up here. Would you rather leave this world successful or leave this world fulfilled? And I guess those would depend on what your definitions of success and or fulfilled is.
Right. I think that's why I got twisted up with that
And
one.
only you know those definitions of what success looks like for you and what fulfillment looks like for you.
Whatever gets me well done, enter in.
Yeah. I can argue and say that they're one and the same, but yeah, I'm on that one.
Can you be fulfilled without being successful? Can you be successful and not be fulfilled?
Guess you got to.
I guess maybe that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I see them as the same.
Okay.
I think we all got different pursuits, so success is self-identified, and so my fulfillment. The fact that I've become fulfilled in whatever that is, I think that means that I've achieved personal success.
Okay. Would you rather fail publicly or succeed privately?
Private. I don't know. Private. I ain't worried about the public.
Depends on who's watching.
I don't care who watching.
Yeah, I don't care which answer I choose. Because if I fail publicly, I'm going to learn. If I succeed privately, I learned. So either way, I learn, which means I'm winning. So I don't really care which one, to be honest with you.
Would you rather have your name remembered or your impact felt?
Impact felt.
Impact all day. Would you rather grind nonstop or rest with purpose?
I think Gaddy had something to say, man.
Oh, yeah, some more. Okay, yeah, let's go back to it. Would you rather have your name remembered or your impact felt?
Gaddy said, I want my name in the books, bro.
Man, put them in the books. Nah. No, what's the proverb? It's not 18. 18 is just one of my favorite. But it says a good name is better than riches. And I think it's the same thing. So when I hear a name remembered, I'm thinking about the impact. Just because, and when you go searching, a lot of times when you see even the Father talks about, remembering his name, it's his name, but his reputation that goes along with the name. So that is the impact.
I get what you're saying, but here's why I chose impact over name. Because at the end of the day, impact means I served you. If you remember my name, that's a byproduct of it.
Touche. I can do that.
That's why I wanted to go back to you, because I knew what you was going to say. Because that was it. But again, that's what you said in the beginning. I remember that.
I get what Gaddy's saying, then I fall back on what Coach was saying too. Yeah, definitely get that. Would you rather grind nonstop or rest with purpose?
Rest with purpose.
Yeah, rest with purpose. Yeah.
Would you rather teach others or do it all yourself?
Teach.
Train. Teach and train.
Would you rather have fans or have family?
Wait a minute.
Hey, wait a minute.
Y'all paying attention.
What just happened?
You're on the wrong chat.
Would you rather have fans or have family?
That kind of remind me of you talking about them carpet burns on Tuesday. Definitely. But see, I'm gonna say family. I'm gonna go with family on this one.
Definitely have family.
Yeah. I like that one. All right, last one. Is grind culture? No, this ain't. That was the last one. Appreciate y'all for that. Next question is grind culture inspiring or destructive to men, specifically men's mental health? Is grind culture inspiring or destructive to men's mental health?
Sure.
He says sure. So I'll go first. Here's where I land at this right now. I get the grind culture, and I think at some point it can be inspiring, depending on who you are. When I went through my when I went through my grind phase, you know what I mean? I was inspired by the grind culture. I was inspired by David Goggins. I was inspired by Eric Thomas, always preaching the grind. You know what I'm saying? I think that there can be a point to where you go overboard where the grind consumes you. And then now, if I'm not grinding, now you're feeling sorry for yourself. Or if I'm not grinding, I'm thinking a certain way about myself because I haven't made it to this point by this time. So I think that in I think at a point it can be inspiring, but I think that there may come to a point to where it tips over and it can be destructive to a man's mental health. I think the more grounded you are in life, you can still grind and it not be destructive to your mental health. I think for some people, the grind is something that actually helps their mental health. So that again, that's kind of where I sit at, but I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Any so inspiring to do what? And then whatever that to do can become destructive to men's. That's why I'm sure.
Because I'll say this, all right. So let's talk about the grind code. Let's talk about David Goggins, right? David Goggins grinding, went through hell weeks and all these different things, running on, fractured legs and stuff. I think that can be destructive for men who are comparing their average life or average what they're doing to somebody like that. And that's why I get that part too.
I think the grind culture, if I may, is inspiring for younger people, younger people who may or may not have a sense of direction, but it can be motivating to them. I'm cautious to use the word inspiring because inspiring is more long term. So I think it gives them temporary motivation to kind of imagine themselves doing what somebody else is doing outside of what they're currently experiencing. But then when you start doing that, you're automatically comparing. You automatically start comparing. You start comparing yourself to where you are, from where you are to where someone else is. And I want to do just like you talked about David Goggins doing all this and doing all that. I promise you, and I don't mean no disrespect. No, there's absolutely nothing about David Goggins that motivates or inspires me. But that's the me thing because I have no desire to put my body through all of that just to say I did it. Now, he did awesome. Congratulations. I think that was an awesome thing that he did to go from what 3 different branches of service and like be able to not only try well, try out, but become a part of some of the elite teams on those different branches of service. I didn't even have the desire to do that in the army. You talking about jumping out of the airplane? No, I'm not doing it. I take my time getting out of bed. So stuff like that does not even motivate me. You understand what I'm saying? So I think when we look at this, we have to first understand the difference between inspiration and motivation. Motivation is more temporary. It's like the sugar rush that you get when you eat something like, take something to go work out. Like that's your initial sugar rush, but that's going to fade fast because there is no internal flame that it ignites. So can it be destructive to a person's mental health? Yes, because it never taps into the thing that inspires them. I think when it comes down to inspiration, inspiration is different from person to person to person because what inspires me isn't supposed to inspire you. That's the thing that helps us to move forward into the thing that we're supposed to be doing. But I think when we look at grind culture just takes it and throw it in a big old pot and stir it up like a bucket of gumbo. and say, just get on the grind. Just go, 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 go. If you sleep at 5 o'clock in the morning, you ain't doing nothing. You know, I'm 5 a.m. I'm out here getting it in. Where you at? I'm asleep. Not really. I'm not. Really, I'm not, but I got my face in the book. But I'm just saying, that's what grind culture does. There's a lot of comparison that happens within the scope of that.
Yeah, I think it's kind of misguided because I think before you can start your grind per se, you should know your purpose. Because when you know your purpose, you should know where to put your discipline. So when you're grinding, it's not just like that pot of gumbo that Coach was just talking about. Because if I'm grinding because you say I should be up at 3 o'clock in the morning running, what running got to do with me trying to do what my purpose is in? Has nothing. So you should when you find your purpose, then grind in that, discipline yourself in that, develop those things where you are, not where someone wants you to be. Because sometimes the culture says you got to be doing this and you got to be doing this, and if you're not doing that, then you're not doing it right, and that means I'm not doing it right to your benefit and my detriment. So instead of looking at somebody else's culture and saying what I should be doing, let me sit back and find myself and see what I'm supposed to be doing, and then I'll find me.
Yeah, yeah, and I think so. Can we take? Yeah, I said, can we take personal responsibility with Inspire too, right? Because you know, Roland inspires me by the way he is with his relationship with his kids and his grandkids. Don't mean that I'm gonna go cut hair every 2 days. Don't mean I'm gonna have some children that I ain't birth or I ain't put in to birth at my house all the time. That's what he does, and he's a great granddaddy. I love my brother. I'm just saying, but I see his relationship, so I I don't I'm if I do what he does, I may burn out because it don't look the same. But I can take myself that inspiration to be that can just be. I just need to make sure that I build a good relationship with my kids so that I can have an opportunity to have a relationship with my grandkids, whatever that looks like. Her they Cannon did an interview and I just heard him say, they said, "What time you get up?" He said about 4 in the morning. Now we all of us we didn't already live that life, but but oh, that inspires me. That mean I'm gonna get up at 4 o'clock in the morning? No. If you get up at 8 o'clock in the morning and you got inspired by Nick Cannon to get up a little earlier, get up at 6. You ain't gotta get up at like whatever that looks like for you. So I think if we look at David Goggins and we like, I got to do all of this crazy stuff so that I can become great. Well, you crazy. That's what it looked like for him. Just be inspired to get up and go after it and figure out what that looks like for you.
Yeah, I think that's important. What does all of that stuff look like for you? Totally different. Thank to everybody who donated. Definitely appreciate all of that. Coach always said all of that goes back into the production and everything that goes on this platform. Who definitely appreciate every single person, his divine appointment, Miss Nick D and Lisa Keys. Definitely appreciate you for those blessings coming this way. Moving on, got a scenario, gentlemen. A man builds a successful business, but then realizes his kids barely know him. What's his next move?
Put him to work.
Put him to work. There you go.
Put him
Get
to
him
work.
on the business.
That's it. Come on, let's go. We got to go work this business together. I just believe the family is supposed to be a business. So if I'm running a business, we running a business. But Daddy, I don't want to do that. Great. When you go move on and do your own thing, then you can build your own business.
I'm with it. If you got little kids, let them come hang out at the job sometime so they can be around it. They understand the culture and feel of being there. And then when you put them to work, they're comfortable there. They're not figuring out everything from scratch. If you got a restaurant, okay. You know how many times I've been to a family-owned restaurant and see their kids in the corner doing homework? Seeing their kids
How long did you
back
have to
there
wait?
on the
10
floor.
minutes? Did you have to wait 10 minutes for your food?
Hey,
I got a better one. The kids didn't have to wait 30 years to have a profession. The kids didn't have to. The kids didn't have to wait 15, 20 years after graduation to get out of debt. Legacy is established through that.
You mean that's called parenting?
Oh yeah, that is what that's called, huh?
man.
You mean the next move ain't to plan a vacation and take everybody out for ice cream?
I mean, if that's what people want to keep doing, but I mean, the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. What if they're working in their inheritance?
I mean, it's gonna be theirs anyway.
Look at other coaches, man. Pay attention.
Man.
Right.
I agree. I like that. Let's move to fact or myth. Myth. All right, we ain't got too many of these. All right, we got a couple of them. Fact or myth, gentlemen. Greatness always requires sacrifice. Greatness always requires sacrifice.
Fact.
Two facts, three facts. Fact or myth. Men who rest are labeled lazy.
I mean, if we say are labeled, society believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure, I think that's what society believes. But does that necessarily mean that that person is lazy? That means that they probably worked hard the first half of their life, and now they are, being a little less assertive in the things that they're doing. I don't think that's them calling them. I don't think that's them lazy.
I agree.
I agree.
Other people don't like to see other people rest. That's all.
Got a whole algorithm. Somebody got me in the whole algorithm now, and I get a whole bunch of videos about retired people with 100% disability, and they getting up doing nothing, and a whole bunch of people hating on them. So it just popped up in mine. Fact or myth, legacy. I didn't plan on it. Somebody sent me a video, and I've seen like 6 of them.
No, man, that was just me trying to help you out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Legacy is built only through achievements.
Only.
I'm about to use the wrong word. Myth.
With an F.
With an F. Success guarantees happiness.
Myth.
Football player just showed you that the other day.
Yep.
And a cowboy.
Mm-hmm. Balance and greatness can't coexist.
Myth.
Got you thinking.
Oh no, I'm agreeing. Myth.
Okay. Men feel mediocrity more than burnout. It's interesting.
Fact. If we're making it as a generality, just a generality,
yeah.
yes.
I really want to say fact here because I think this is more probable than not. Are there men who don't think? Sure. But for the most part, the preponderance of the population, absolutely.
Fact.
Yeah. I would be on the sliding scale more towards fact than myth. The biggest legacies are accidental, not intentional.
Definitely a myth.
Yeah. Myth all day.
Yeah. I can see how people could say fact, but I'm gonna say myth. Yeah.
I don't even see how they can say fact. That just means they don't understand what legacy is.
Right.
Purpose shift once you've achieved what you've chased. Purpose shift once you achieve what you chased.
No. Definitely myth. I don't even false.
Yeah. Yes. Because the purpose stays the same. Once you, yeah.
You could also have shifts mid, depending on what you're doing.
I think this falls for those people who are addicted, as Coach put it, that are addicted to chasing success. I've achieved this. Now I got to go do this. I look at people like look at Jay-Z. I'm not saying he falls in that category, but became one of the highest selling rappers of all time. Now I gotta now I gotta go open up or became the CEO of Def Jam. Now I gotta go open up a champagne and getting the champagne. I need something else to chase so I can be great at it.
But see, even in that, I don't think that's purpose. I think those are goals. Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't think purpose and goals is the same
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah.
And he didn't open them; he just put his name on them. So yeah,
Right. Made him $1 billion. So.
he ain't stepping on no grapes. But yeah,
All right. Last one, folks. Last question of the night, and then we're gonna get into our final thoughts. Again, go ahead and hit that like button if you hadn't already. Share this. And again, go back and watch Tuesday's video if you want to know about the carpet burns. Um, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if today was your last day, what's one thing you want people to remember you for? They can be your kids, your family, the chat, whoever they may be. What's one thing you'd want people to remember you for?
Believing, believing that what we're seeing today is not our destination. Believing that all of the anxiety that everybody is feeling in the midst of all the things that are happening right now, that in my heart, I believed without any question, regardless of what was seen. I believed in what the Most High said. And I believed that we could actually unite, come together, and push towards that. I don't believe that everybody will want to do it, but I believe that there's enough of us who believe enough that can actually stop looking at what mainstream is talking about and stop talking about it and focus on what he said and push in that direction. And if we could do that, than knowing that we could actually achieve something great together. So if I wanted anybody to remember anything from me about me, if today was my last day, I wanted them to know that I believed in a future that is prescripted but unimaginable.
I thought I saw
Hey,
Roland reading. My bad.
mm,
Uh, I thinking so. Yeah. I mean, simple for me is, you know, and I'm not saying that I'm there yet. So, Father, keep me around just a couple more seconds so I can get there. Uh, and which is that I walked towards the my purpose and never shied away from teaching man that is all of our purpose, and that is to fear God and keep His commandments. That I never strayed away from what was founded to be true for my own comfort, safety. I was about to quote half of the part of the NCO creed, right? But but I I held on to what he said, even when it became unpopular, and not to be remembered by just by doing it, but remembered as inspiring others to seek him. If I could do that, I think I'd be all right.
but since you got us making our own eulogies, now I think for me it would be that everybody I ever came in contact with, I wanted to have a positive, laugh out loud, joyful experience while being serious about life and everything in it in the same vein. Because I think that I try to live life that way. I always try to have fun. I always try to lighten the mood. I always try to not be so serious, like the Joker said. Why so serious? Because I think that sometimes people are so serious that it eats them from the inside out, and it shows. It shows in their relationships. It shows in how they deal with people. It shows in their demeanor and everything. So for me, it would be that no matter what, he had fun. Whether he was at a funeral, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, he was gonna joke. He was gonna have fun.
I think for me, one thing I want to be remembered for is my persistence, resilience, and consistency, kind of all wrapped up in one. You know, I never really quit. You know, just kept pushing through a lot of different stuff. You know, never really gave up on a lot of stuff. May not have tried as hard, but you know, it took me 21 years to complete all my degrees. You know, and I don't know. I just think that, you know, with consistency, just doing things over and over for a long time, you know, you can get to where you want to go. When you're persistent, you know, you can get to whatever goal or achievement that you have. You know, when you know, I just think, you know, those are kind of the things that, you know, I want people to remember me for, because I think a lot of times people don't get to a certain place in their life because they don't have consistency, and they don't have resilience because they haven't been through certain things are hard. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I want to hang at. But you know, I see I'm looking at the time. We a little bit past. Don't want to keep people too much longer because it is Friday night. With that being said, we are about to go around and do our final thoughts.
The hidden cost of chasing greatness, rewriting legacy. Hmm. We talked a lot today about some of everything, but we talked about that whole grinding. And I want to leave you with this. And it hinges on to my last statement as well. It says, all my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, gotta roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. That's Nipsey. He grinded all his life. He has a legacy. You can have a legacy. I can't live in anyone else's shoes but my own. That's why I got to be the one to determine what my purpose is so that I can follow it. So I'm not just chasing someone else's carrot. I'm not chasing someone else's definition of success. I'm not putting myself in a situation where I'm seeing greatness through someone else's eyes and making me the person that has to achieve it, because it's going to add undue stress. And then while I'm adding that undue stress, I'm gonna lose relationships. I'm gonna lose a relationship with children. I'm gonna lose a relationship with family members and friends. So instead of chasing those things, when I find purpose, when you find purpose, look at your purpose and see what it is that you have to do to reach your goals, not chase for greatness, because none of us can be greater than we actually think we can be. We can just be who we are and strive to be better than who we were yesterday. That's all I have.
I was gonna be like Roland and quote, you know, uh, Cassidy, I'm a hustler. You know, I'm joking. Uh, but I enjoyed this conversation, and appreciate you, Unc, for this conversation and for the questions. For me, if we're pursue anything, I would say pursue the way. And if we pursue the way, I think we will achieve purpose in that. Whether we talk about the concept of becoming a Proverbs 31 woman, that is not achieved by trying to emulate what is said in Proverbs 31, but it is the byproduct of following the way of the Most High. The same thing, he who findeth the wife findeth the good. Well, you findeth a wife through finding what how that is defined through the word of the Most High. Then in that you will find favor, but not just finding a woman and making her a wife. And so I think in our pursuit, let's not pursue anything outside of pursuing him first. And that through him, we will see where we ought to walk, where we ought to go, what things are good for us, what things are not good for us, or what things are bad for us because we mishandled it because we didn't understand it. Through that, I'll stand there and I'll hold the rest of my peace.
The hidden costs of chasing greatness, and the second part of the program is rewiring legacy. I want to start with the hidden costs of chasing greatness. A lot of times when we're chasing greatness, it's all about me. So I'm chasing greatness. I want to do this. I want to do that. And so what ends up happening is that we have misaligned priorities. Sure, the priorities may reflect what I want, but what is the thing that I'm supposed to be doing? Who am I actually serving in the midst of doing that? So number one is misaligned priorities. Number two is that we don't necessarily empower the right teams. And I think that's a huge one. And I'll say it again, we don't necessarily empower the right teams. What are those right teams? I think teams fall in two categories, internal and external. The internal team you heard me talk about previously, which is supposed to be the family. The external teams are supposed to be the external legs of the family, the closest, the people who are closest to the family, whether it's your best friends, what are other family members that actually serve as sounding boards to your family, right? Those are external legs. And I think number three itself is failing to develop a plan that builds, develops, and encourages. Everything you just heard Brother Gaddy talk about, I agree wholeheartedly, but that's supposed to be a part of your legacy plan. Your legacy plan is supposed to leave instructions. Your legacy plan is supposed to build them up. Your legacy plan is supposed to teach them and encourage them, and then leave clear written instructions for how the name is supposed to be carried into the future for multiple generations to come. So when we look at the hidden cost of chasing greatness, it's pretty much us being self-centered in our approach to this life that we're living, and missing the idea or the notion behind writing a legacy that extends the family beyond generational, but beyond multiple generations. And I'll land right there.
All great closing statements for tonight. I want to just be very brief. What I was thinking about while you guys were talking and then looking at this title, The Hidden Cost of Chasing Greatness, was about something that I learned not too long ago over here on this. It was either here or either Coach's Corner. And my mind was blown because Coach had talked about something. I can't even think of it right now. And I got it on my notes somewhere across my desk, but I'm looking at the word impact. Yes, it's the hidden cost of chasing greatness and stuff like that. Whatever it is that you're chasing, whatever your goal is, whatever you want your legacy to be, what impact is that going to have on whoever those people are once you are no longer here? And that's something that, it's kind of where I want to sit, is that, I think the impact that you have is very important to the people around you, your families, whoever that may be, whoever you decide, you know, um, those people are, I don't know. It just, I can't help not think about the word impact when I'm looking at the hidden costs of chasing greatness and rewriting legacy. What is the impact that you're going to have on the future generations, on your kids? Wise man leaves inheritance for his children's children, or his grandkids. What impact are you going to leave here for your grandkids? So, again, that's my final thought for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. We definitely appreciate everybody who was here this afternoon, this evening, tonight, whatever time it is, wherever you are. Definitely appreciate it. These brothers were spitting hot fire tonight. We had some laughs, we had some jokes, and we enjoyed ourselves. We enjoyed all of the comments, the questions, and everything that has been said in the chat. Everybody, I'm looking at all these different platforms. Been a lot of people here tonight. Definitely appreciate you for staying here with us tonight. Gentlemen, what else, if anything, do you guys have before we shut this thing down for this evening? Admin notes, anything?
Yeah, we have nothing more. Just Bible study Tuesday, Sunday morning at start at 9:30, and then of course we got TikTok live on Sunday at 11:30, and that is hosted by myself. I think we're gonna have some fun with that one. So please join us.
Absolutely. And with that being said, happy Veterans Day to all you gentlemen. That is in a couple of days. That's on Tuesday. I know there's some people in the chat who are veterans as well. So if you are a veteran, shout out to you, and go get some free food on Tuesday. Ladies and gentlemen, I ain't got nothing else. And with that being said, we will see you guys on Sunday. And then we'll see you again on Tuesday for an episode of Coach's Corner. We are out.